anything left there for you. Now I know you don't wanna lie, so save it for another time, 'cause 100 more tries will make it true. Yeah, I know you, baby. Yeah, I know we both have much more to give. And when you meet someone else, and if they mean that much, I hope you follow. Hope you follow them. When you miss a touch, yeah, I hope you say as much and never falter, never fall away. 'Cause when you love someone that you love so much, don't ever let your heart break. Don't ever let your heart break again. When you meet someone else, and if they mean that much, I hope you follow. Hope you follow them.
I've got you in my sights now, so close but I can touch you. Maybe we should just pretend this dream will never end. You're feeling lonely, I'm wanting more. Get your arms around me, we'll be tangled up. I'll make you love
get time. We've had our wrongs, our rights. All we do is point out our fingers, and it never gets any better. So let's change it all tonight and let go of all expectations. Won't you take my hand, come with me, let's go wandering to a place where we know we belong again. Way above the ground, you and me hovering. Feels like we are, though we're lost in love again. Yeah. We're lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. We're lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. We're lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. We're lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. We're lost in love. Oh, feelings come and they go. Real love needs room to grow. If it come back, then it's forever. And from there, it only gets better. Won't you take my hand, come with me, let's go wandering to a place where we know we belong again. Way above the ground, you and me hovering. Feels like we are, though we're lost in love again. We're lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. We're lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. We're lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. We're lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. We're lost in love. Oh, lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. We're lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. We're lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. We're lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. Oh, we're lost in love. We're lost in I'm hoping, waiting, wishing on a star. I'm dreaming about tomorrow with all my heart. Don't try to tell me that all this is wasted. Nothing is crazy, we're just hard-headed. Broken ain't nothing. If you're fighting something, try to admit it, or you scared of committing. So cut me loose and let me go my way. I don't wanna wash away. I don't wanna wash away. Just wanna hear them say my name. Just wanna hear them say my name.
I did it again. I did it again. Okay, I was just saying that, Katrisha, I'm so sorry to hear that you're back at the hospital again, and please send your partner so much love. It sucks, I know. We're all thinking about you. But hopefully we can, bring a little bit of happiness into your day, whatever we can do. Because we're on chapter 32 of the book. And I am going to try to pull up some background vibes here. Not in whatever weird app I'm trying to use, because that's clearly not not the way to do it if it just breaks every time I go to navigate to it. That's no good. But I wasn't hating that, what's this? Let's try this. What's this? Oh. No. That's too much like a movie. We don't want that. What do we want here, guys? Let me see. Can I show you what I'm looking at? Yeah, I can. All right. So, I'm going by vibe right now. And, yes, very mischievous sounding. I love that the serious is like an emo emoji. I mean, I usually go with something kind of chill. I'm reluctant to go in the sexy vibes because I'm feeling like, one, most of our sexy has happened already. And two, I feel like it's just going to be a lot of like weird stuff. Oh, it's like a revealing chapter. That's good. Here, let's go with ambient. Oh, it's beatless. What does that mean? Oh, so it's just like we're in a spa? I don't like that as much. Oh, it reloaded. Let's try whatever this is. That looks like a cool person. Atmospheric trap. Why not? That's not usually what I'm into, but we'll do it. If we hate it, we hate it, and we'll change it. But I'm down with that for now. Oh, hi, Arctic. I'm doing good. You know, just recovering after last night's sleepover stream, which thanks for everybody who hung out there. We sort of ended the night when like my drink kicked in and I got like drowsy. I was like, let's just finish this game. I'm gonna go sleep. Which I did not do. I then heated up the remainder of my Chinese food and hung out because my partner had gotten home at that point, but yeah, no. Feeling okay this morning, drinking a coffee. I just took an allergy pill, so hopefully I'm not like itching at my nose the whole time because I'm starting to feel it. Yeah. I did a sleepover stream, so that's our new Saturday night. Our Saturday night vibe. We just do some chill vibes. We watched a movie. So we watched Reefer Madness last night, which was fun. It was the first time I'd ever seen it. So we always watch something, or at least we're going to always watch something, ideally. It's just sort of like, it's a silly public domain thing. We played Monster Prom at the end. I did my makeup with everybody and hung out. So just, yeah, some of the pretty vibes. But the whole idea is that it's like really fluid and we can do whatever we want. Oh gosh, puppy dog. But yeah, I wear pajamas. It's an excuse to be comfy and chill with everyone. She just took one of my nails off. God damn it. No, I don't know where it is. Here it is. Yes, Queen, we ended up taking Damien to prom. So like the devil guy, we took him to prom. Yes, this mimosa, she says hi. She's very needy today. She's very needy every day, let's be real, but some days just a little bit more than others. I mean, clearly, yes, you would think that's a good idea. But I don't know. It's just like he wears that jean jacket with the shirling on it, which I always think is, I don't know. I've just got something about that. I wear one sometimes too. I don't know. It just gets me. And He likes to set things on fire, which is fun in theory, bad in practice. As most things, when we're discussing monster fucking, good in theory, bad in practice. Oh, but I did also post stream last night because I was like damn sleepy. I did cut my finger too, and I don't even know on what. So you always know it's a good night when you wake up injured. But yeah. Yes, Polly is also a good go-to. I just know she's harder to wrangle. And last night I was just like, let's just go for someone I think I've got pegged. I keep saying that, and it's like in this context kind of dirty, and I should probably come up with a better thing to say. But yeah, so we're on chapter 32. I've got to find my book app. Where's my book app? It's gone. It's just hiding from me. Yeah. You know what? I think part of it's when I have my my space heater on and it's very cold, but I think I've got to at least turn it down. Because damn, itchy nose. I don't know if like my microphone's picking it up, but I'm so sorry if it's annoying. I just absolutely must. Right, Arctic? Yeah, I didn't I wasn't expecting it either. So yeah, let's change up our chapter name here, get ourselves all settled, and then we can start reading. Oh, did I move the box too? I do there. There we go. Yep, so we're on chapter 32 of 46. So we're getting there. Right now it says we're at 64% way through the book. I'm gonna drink my cold coffee and get us through this. This revealing chapter. Okay. Chapter 32. I gave myself a minute, just 1 minute, to kneel in the remnants of the entry hall. Oh, so this is just a quick reminder because I also only remember once I go to look at it that they are Feyre has gone back over the wall. She had previously been told in last week's reading that she had to go back to see her family. She saw her family for a little bit, realized that Tamlin and all the Fae people were all in trouble, and so she went back. And she's entered the manor now with the Spring Court and realized that, like, something has gone on here. Everything is all destroyed, and that she needs to figure out where they've all gone, because everybody's gone, everything's destroyed. She doesn't know where they are. She's assuming right now they're at whatever this under the mountain place is. So she's just sort of about to go on her next adventure and figure out what's going on. I gave myself a minute, just 1 minute, to kneel in the remnants of the entry hall. Then I eased to my feet, careful not to disturb any of the shattered glass or wood or blood. There were splatters of it everywhere, along with small puddles and smears down the gouged walls. Another forest, I told myself. Another set of tracks. Slowly, I moved across the floor, tracing the information left. It had been a vicious fight, and from the blood patterns, most of the damage to the house had been done during the fight, not afterward. The crushed glass and footprints came and went from the front and back of the house, as if the whole place had been surrounded. The intruders had needed to force their way in through the front door. They just completely shattered the doors to the garden. No bodies, I kept repeating to myself. There were no bodies, and not much gore. They had to be alive. Tamlin had to be alive. Because if he were dead... I rubbed my face, taking a shuddering breath. I wouldn't let myself get that far. My hands shook as I paused before the dining room doors, both barely hanging on their hinges. I couldn't tell if the damage was from lashing out after Rasan's arrival the day before my departure, or if someone else had caused it. The giant table was in pieces, the windows smashed, the curtains in shreds. But no blood. There was no blood here. And from the prints in the shards of glass, I studied the trail across the floor. It had been disturbed, but I could make out 2 sets, large and side by side, leading from where the table had been. As if Tamlin and Lucian had been sitting in here as the attack happened and walked out without a fight. If I was right, then they were alive. I traced the steps to the doorway, squatting for a moment to work through the churned up shards, dirt, and blood. They'd been met here by multiple sets of prints and headed toward the garden. Debris crunched from down the hall. I drew my hunting knife and ducked further into the dining room, scanning for a place to hide. But everything was in pieces. With no other option, I lunged behind the open door. I pressed a hand over my mouth to keep from breathing too loudly and peered through the crack between the door and the wall. Something limped into the room and sniffed. I could only see its back, cloaked in a plain cape, medium height. All it had to do to find me was shut the door. Perhaps if it came far enough into the dining room, I could slip out, but that would require leaving my hiding spot. Perhaps it would just look around and then leave. The figure sniffed again, and my stomach clenched. It could smell me. I dared a better glance at it, hoping to find a weakness, a spot for my knife, if things came down to it. The figure turned slightly toward me. I cried out, and the figure screeched as I shoved away the door. Alice! It's Alice! Okay. Alright, that's good news. Damn it. The dog's sitting on my headphones. There we go. Okay, so Alice is alive. That's exciting. She gaped at me, a hand on her heart. Her usual brown dress torn and dirty, her apron gone entirely. Not bloodied, though. Nothing save for the slight limp that favored her right ankle as she rushed for me, her tree bark skin bleaching birch white. You can't be here. She took my knife, the bow and quiver. You were told to stay away. Is he alive? Yes, but... My knees buckled at the onslaught of relief. And Lucian? Alive as well, but tell me what happened. Tell me everything. I kept an eye on the window, listening to the manor and grounds around us. Not a sound. Alice grasped my arm and pulled me from the room. She didn't speak as we hurried through the empty, too quiet halls, all of them wrecked and bloodied. But no bodies. Either they'd been hauled away, or... I didn't let myself consider it as we entered the kitchen. A fire had scorched the giant room, and it was little more than cinders and blackened stone. After sniffing about and listening for any signs of danger, Alice released me. What are you doing here? I had to come back. I thought something had gone wrong. I couldn't stay away. I had to help. He told you not to come back, Alice snapped. Where is he? Alice covered her face with her long, bony hands, her fingertips grappling into the upper edge of her mask as if trying to tear it from her face. But the mask remained, and Alice sighed as she lowered her tree bark hands. She took him, she said, and my blood went cold. She took him to her court under the mountain. Who? But I already knew the answer. Amarantha, Alice whispered, and glanced again around the kitchen, as if fearful that speaking her name would summon her. Why? And who is she? What is she? Please, please, just tell me. Just give me the truth. Alice shuddered. You want the truth, girl? Then here it is. She took him for the curse, because the 7 times 7 years were over, and he hadn't shattered her curse. She summoned all the High Lords to her court this time, to make them watch her break him. What is she? What curse? A curse. The curse she had put on this place. A curse that I had failed to even see. Amarantha is Amarantha is High Queen of this land. The High Queen of Prythian. Alice breathed, her eyes wide with some memory of horror. But the 7 High Lords rule Prythian equally. There's no High Queen. That's how it used to be. How it's always been. Until 100 years ago when she appeared in these lands as an emissary from Hybern. Alice grabbed a large satchel that she must have left by the door. It was already half full of what looked like clothes and supplies. As she began sifting through the ruined kitchen, gathering up knives and any food that had survived, I wondered at the information the Suriel had given me of a wicked fairy king who had spent centuries resenting the treaty he'd been forced to sign, and who had sent out his deadliest commanders to infiltrate the other fairy kingdoms and courts to see if they felt as he did. To see if they might consider reclaiming the human lands for themselves. I leaned against one of the soot-stained walls. She went from court to court, Alice went on, turning an apple over in her hands as she inspected it, deemed it good enough, and stuffed it into the bag. Charming the High Lords with talk of more trade between Hybern and Prythian, more communication, more sharing of assets. The never-fading flower, they called her. And for 50 years, she lived here as a courtier bound to no court, making amends, she claimed, for her own actions and the actions of Hybern during the war. She fought in the war against mortals? Alice paused her gathering. Her story is legend among our kind. Legend and nightmare. She was the king of Hybern's most lethal general. She fought on the front lines, slaughtering humans and any high fae and fairies who dare defend them. But she had a younger sister, Clithia. I'm sorry, Clithia? What kind of a name is that? Anyway. Who fought at her side, as vicious and wretched as she, until Clithia fell in love with a mortal warrior, Jurian. Alice loosed a shaking sigh. Jurian commanded mighty human armies, but Clithia still secretly sought him out, still loved him, with an unrelenting madness. She was too blind to realize that Jurian was using her for information about Amarantha's forces. Amarantha suspected, but could not persuade Clithia to leave him, and could not bring herself to kill him, not when it would cause her sister such pain. Alice clicked her tongue and began opening the cabinets, scanning their ravaged insides. Amarantha delighted in torture and killing, and yet she loved her sister enough to stay her hand. What happened? I breathed. Oh, Jurian betrayed Clithia. After months of stomaching being her lover, he got the information he needed, then tortured and butchered her, crucifying her with ash wood so she couldn't move while he did it. He left the pieces of her for Amarantha to find. They say Amarantha's wrath could have brought down the skies themselves, had her king not ordered her to stand down. But she and Jurian had their final confrontation later. And since then, Amarantha has hated humans with a rage you cannot imagine. Alice found what looked to be a jar of preserves and added it to the satchel. Oh. After the two sides made the treaty, Alice said, now going through the drawers, she butchered her own slaves rather than free them. I blanched. But centuries later, the High Lords believed her when she told them that the death of her sister had changed her, especially when she opened trade lines between our two territories. The High Lords never knew that those same ships that brought over Hybern goods also brought over her Hibernian goods, also brought over her own personal forces. The King of Hybern didn't know either. But we all soon learned that in those 50 years she was here, she had decided she wanted Prithian for her own, to begin amassing power and use our lands as a launching point to one day destroy your world once and for all, with or without her king's blessing. So 49 years ago, she struck. She knew that even with her personal army, she could never conquer the Seven High Lords by the Seven High Lords by numbers or power alone. But she was also cunning and cruel. And she waited until they absolutely trusted her. Until they gathered at a ball in her honor. And that night, she slipped a potion stolen from the King of Hybern's unholy spellbook into her wine. Once they drank, the High Lords were prone, their magic laid bare, and she stole their powers from where they originated inside their bodies, plucked them out as if she were taking an apple from its branch, leaving them with only the basest elements of their magic. Your Tamlin, what you saw of him here was a shade of what he used to be, the power that he used to command. And with the High Lord's power so greatly decreased, Amarantha wrested control of Prithian from them in a matter of days. For 49 years, we have been her slaves. For 49 years, she has been biding her time, waiting for the right moment to break the treaty and take your lands, and all human territories beyond it. I wished there was a stool, a bench, a chair for me to slump into. Alice slammed shut the final drawer and limped for the pantry. Now they call her the Deceiver. She who trapped the Seven High Lords and built her palace beneath the sacred mountain in the heart of our land. Alice paused before the pantry door and covered her face again, taking a few steadying breaths. The sacred mountain. That bald, monstrous peak I'd spotted in the mural in the library all those months ago. But the sickness in the lands. Tamlin said that the blight took their power. She is the sickness in these lands, Alice snapped, lowering her hands and entering the pantry. There is no blight but her. The borders were collapsing because she laid them to rubble. She found it amusing to send her creatures to attack our lands, to test whatever strength Tamlin had left. If the blight was Amarantha, then the threat to the human realm, she was the threat to the human realm. Alice emerged from the pantry, her arms full of various root vegetables. You could have been the one to stop her. Her eyes were hard upon me, and she bared her teeth. They were alarmingly sharp. She shoved the turnips and beets into the bag. You could have been the one to free him and his power, had you not been so blind to your own heart. Humans, she spat. I lifted my hands, exposing my palms to her. I didn't know. You couldn't know, Alice said bitterly, her laugh harsh as she entered the pantry again. It was part of Tamlin's curse. My head swam, and I pressed myself further against the wall. What was? I fought the rising hitch in my voice. What was his curse? What did she do to him? Oh, is this like a true love's kiss situation? Huh? I bet it is. Oh. Yeah. Alright. Alice yanked remaining spice jars off the pantry shelf. Tamlin and Amarantha knew each other before. His family had long been tied to Hybern. During the war, the Spring Court allied with Hybern to keep the humans enslaved. So his father who was a fickle and vicious lord, was very close with the King of Hybern, to Amarantha. Tamlin as a child often accompanied him on trips to Hybern, and he met Amarantha in the process. Tamlin had once said to me that he would fight to protect someone's freedom, that he would never allow slavery. Had it been solely because of shame for his own legacy? Or because he'd come to somehow know that it was what it was to be enslaved? Amarantha eventually grew to desire Tamlin, to lust for him, with her entire wicked heart. But he'd heard the stories from others about the war, and knew what Amarantha and her father and the Highborn King had done to fairies and humans alike. What she did to Jurian as punishment for her sister's death. He was wary of her when she came here, despite her attempts to lure him into her bed, and kept his distance right up until she stole his powers. Lucian was sent to her as Tamlin's emissary to try to treat for peace between them. Bile rose in my throat. She refused, and Lucian told her to go back to the shithole she'd crawled out of. She took his eye as punishment, carved it out with her own fingernail, and scarred his face. She sent him back so bloody that Tamlin, the High Lord, vomited when he saw his friend. I couldn't let myself imagine what state Lucian had been in then, if it had made Tamlin sick. Alice tapped on her mask, the metal ping beneath her nails. After that, she hosted a masquerade under the mountain for herself. All the courts were present. A party, she said, to make amends for what she'd done to Lucian. Oh, hi, Boris ABC. Yeah, I'll take a quick pause here for you, so I'll let you know what's going on. So I'm not sure how up on the story you are, but welcome. So we're talking right now with Alice, who is like the handmaiden to Feyre, our main character. Yeah, no, nothing really. Okay, so it's like a fantasy novel. We are pretty far in, but I can give you like a quick briefing here. So the girl who's the main character. Cool. No, I'm glad you're hopping in. Yeah. So the main girl, Feyre, who we're talking with, she is a human. She was taken to the fairy realm by a High Lord fairy whose name is Tamlin. Basically, through different interactions, they've sort of fallen in love, and in the process of that, there is also this curse and something called the Blight that was taking over the fairy lands and potentially going to move into the human lands. The fairy and the human lands are enemies. And we're just finding out now by talking to Alice, who is used to be her handmaiden when she lived in the fairy land in this mountain, whatever. That the curse and the blight is being brought on by this woman named Amarantha, who is like an evil fairy, and we're getting all of her backstory right now. What's going on in the immediate is that Tamlin and the other members of this court who Feyre has come to be in love with have all disappeared. And clearly there's been some sort of massive fight that's happened in the mansion she's just returned to, because there's destruction and everything everywhere. And so she's just getting this information from Alice so that she can go and potentially rescue them. And so hopefully we'll sort of catch up. If anything makes absolutely no sense to you, ping it in chat, and either myself or maybe one of our lovely viewers could sort of catch you up on the necessary facts. Okay. So anyway, she was saying, after that, she hosted a masquerade under the mountain for herself. All the courts were present. A party, she said, to make amends for what she'd done to Lucian, and a masquerade so he didn't have to reveal the horrible scarring on his face. The entire spring court was to attend, even the servants, and to wear masks to honor Tamlin's shape-shifting powers, she said. He was willing to try to end the conflict without slaughter, and he agreed to go, to bring all of us. I pressed my hands against the stone wall behind me, savoring its coolness, its steadiness. Pausing in the center of the kitchen, Alice set down her satchel now, full of food and supplies. When all were assembled, she claimed that peace could be had if Tamlin joined her as her lover and consort. But when she tried to touch him, he refused to let her near. Not after what she'd done to Lucian. He said, in front of everyone that night, that he would sooner take a human in his bed, sooner marry a human, than ever touch her. She might have let it go, had he not then said that her own sister had preferred a human's company to hers, that her own sister had chosen Jurian over her. I winced, already knowing that Alice would say as she braced her hands on her own hips and went on. You can guess how well that went over with Amarantha. But she told Tamlin that she was in a generous mood and told him she'd give him a chance to break the spell she'd put upon him to steal his power. He spat in her face and she laughed. She said he had 7 times 7 years before she claimed him, before he had to join her under the mountain. If he wanted to break her curse, he need only find a human girl willing to marry him. But not any girl, a human with ice in her heart, with hatred for our kind, a human girl willing to kill a fairy. The ground rocked beneath me, and I was grateful for the wall I leaned against. Worse, the fairy she killed had to be one of his men, sent across the wall by him like lambs to slaughter. The girl could only be brought here to be courted if she killed one of his men in an unprovoked attack, killed him for hatred alone, just as Jurian had done to Clithia. Yes, an extremely specific curse, very on the nose. Makes me wonder if she had some sort of like future telling ability or something. I don't know. Or is it one of those situations where it's like by speaking it, she's brought it into being, she manifested it? So he could understand her sister's pain. That was the idea, I guess. Okay. The treaty. That was all a lie. There was no provision for that in the treaty. You can kill as many innocent fairies as you want and never suffer the consequences. You just killed Andras, sent out by Tamlin as that day's sacrifice. Oh. Andras was looking for a cure, Tamlin had said. Not for some magical blight, but a cure to have to save Prithian from Amarantha. A cure for his curse. The wolf. Andras had just stared at me before I killed him. Let me kill him. So it could begin this chain of events, so that Tamlin might stand a chance of breaking the spell. And if Tamlin had sent Andras across the wall, knowing he might very well die. Oh, Tamlin. Alice stopped to gather up a butter knife, twisted and bent, and carefully straightened out the blade. It was a cruel joke, a clever punishment to Amarantha. You humans loathe and fear fairies so much it would be impossible. Impossible for the same girl who slaughtered a fairy in cold blood to then fall in love with one. But the spell on Tamlin could only be broken if she did just that before the 49 years were over. If that girl said to his face that she loved him and meant it with her entire heart. Amarantha knows humans are preoccupied with beauty, and thus bound the masks to all our faces, to his face, so it would be more difficult to find a girl willing to look beyond the mask, beyond his fairy nature, and to the soul beneath. Then she bound us, so we couldn't say a word about the curse. Not a single word. He could hardly tell you a thing about our world, about our fate. He couldn't tell you. None of us properly could. The lies about the blight, that was the best he could do. The best we could all do. That I can tell you now, it means the game is over to her. She pocketed the knife. When she first cursed him, Tamlin sent out one of his men across the wall every day, to the woods, to farms, all disguised as wolves to make it more likely for one of your kind to want to kill them. If they came back, it was with stories of human girls who ran and screamed and begged, who didn't even lift a hand. When they didn't come back, Tamlin's bond with them as their lord and master told him they'd been killed by others. Human hunters, older women perhaps. For 2 years he sent them out, day after day, having to pick who crossed the wall. When all but a dozen of them were left, It broke him so badly he stopped, called it all off. And since then, Tamlin has been here, defending his borders as chaos and disorder ruled in the other courts under Amarantha's thumb. The other High Lords fought back too. 40 years ago, she executed 3 of them and most of their families for banding together against her. Open rebellion? What courts? I straightened, taking a step away from the wall. Perhaps I might find allies among them to help me save Tamlin. The Day Court, Summer Court, and Winter Court. And no, it didn't even get far enough to be considered an open rebellion. She used the High Lord's powers to bind us to the land. So the rebel lords tried calling for aid from the other fairy territories, using as messengers whatever humans were foolish enough to enter our lands. Most of them young women who worshipped us like gods. The children of the blessed. Do I have lipstick all over my head? Remembering my nose. Okay. Steady. Okay, so those children of the blessed people, they were the religious cult. And so clearly they're not dying. The children of the blessed. They had indeed made it over the wall, but not to be brides. I was too battered by what I'd heard to grieve for them, rage for them. Yeah, because when they crossed, they thought that they were gonna be married to fairy folk and live happy, beautiful lives. But Amarantha caught them all before they left these shores, and you can imagine how it ended for those girls. Afterward, once Amarantha also butchered the rebellious High Lords, their successors were too terrified to tempt her wrath again. And where are they now? Are they allowed to live on their lands like Tamlin was? No. She keeps them and their entire courts under the mountain, where she can torment them as she pleases. Others, if they swear allegiance, if they grovel and serve her, she allows them a bit more freedom to come and go under the mountain as they will. Our court was only allowed to remain here until Tamlin's curse ran out. But Alice shivered. That's why you keep your nephews in hiding. To keep them away from this, I said, glancing at the full satchel at her feet. Alice nodded, and as she went to reap, bip, 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 bip. Alice nodded, and as she went to right the overturned work table, I moved to help her, both of us grunting at the weight. My sister and I served in the summer court, and she and her mate were among those put down for spite when Amarantha first invaded. I took the boys and ran before Amarantha had everyone dragged under the mountain. I came here because it was the only place to go, and asked Tamlin to hide my boys. He did, and when I begged him to let me help, in whatever small way, he gave me a position here. Days before the mask that put this wretched thing on my face. So I've been here for nearly 50 years, watching as Amarantha's noose grew tighter around his neck. We set the table upright again, and both of us panted a bit as we slumped against it. He tried, Alice said. Even with her spies, he tried finding ways to break the curse, to do anything against it, against having to send his men out again, to be slaughtered by humans. He thought that if the human girl loved true, then bringing her here to free him was another form of slavery. And he thought that if he did indeed fall in love with her, Amarantha would do everything she could to destroy her, as her sister had been destroyed. So he spent decades refusing to do it, to even risk it. But this winter, with months to go, he just snapped. He sent the last of his men out, one by one, and they were willing. They had begged him to go all these years. Tamlin was desperate to save his people, despite to save his people, desperate enough to risk the lives of his men, risk that human girl's life to save us. 3 days in, Andras finally ran into a human girl in a clearing, and you killed him with hate in your heart. But I had failed them, and in so doing, I damned them all. I had damned each and every person on this estate, damned Prithian itself. I was glad I was leaning against the table's edge, or else I might have slid to the floor. You could have broken it, Alice snarled, those sharp teeth mere inches from my face. All you had to do was say that you loved him. Say that you loved him and mean it with your whole useless human heart, and his power would have been freed, you stupid, stupid girl. No wonder Lucian had resented me, and yet still tolerated my presence. No wonder he'd been so bitterly disappointed when I left. Had argued with Tamlin to let me stay longer. I'm sorry, I said, my eyes burning. Alice snorted. Tell that to Tamlin. He had only 3 days after you left before the 49 years were over. 3 days, and he let you go. She came here with her cronies at the exact moment the 7 times 7 years were over, and seized him, along with most of the court, and brought them under the mountain to be her subjects. Creatures like me are too lowly for her, though she's not above murdering us for sport. I tried not to visualize it. But what of the King of Hybern? If she's conquered Prithian for herself and stolen his spells, then does he see her as insubordinate or as an ally? If they are on bad terms, he has made no move to punish her. For 49 years now, she's held these lands in her grip. Worse, after the High Lords fell, all the wicked ones in our lands, the ones too awful even for the Night Court, flocked to her. They still do. She's offered them sanctuary. But we know she's building her army, biding her time before launching an attack on your world, armed with the most lethal and vicious fairies in Prithian and Hybern. Like the Ator, I said, horror and dread twisting in my gut. And Alice nodded. In the human territory, I said, rumor claims more and more fairies have been sneaking over the wall to attack humans. And if no fairies can cross the wall without her permission, then that has to mean she's been sanctioning those attacks. And if I was right about what had happened to Clara Bador and her family, then Amarantha had given the order for that, too. Alice swiped some dirt I couldn't see from the table we leaned against. I would not be surprised if she has sent her minions into the human realm to investigate your strengths and weaknesses, in anticipation of the destruction she one day hopes to cause. This was worse. So much worse than I had thought, when I wanted Nesta and my family to stay on alert, and leave at the slightest sign of trouble. I felt sick to think of what kind of company Tamlin was keeping. Sick at the thought of him being so desperate, so stricken by guilt and grief over having to sacrifice his centuries and never being able to tell me. And he'd let me go. Let all their sacrifices, let Andras' sacrifice, be in vain. He'd known that if I remained, I would be at risk of Amarantha's wrath, even if I freed him. I can't even protect myself against them, against what's happening in Prithian. Even if we stood against the Blight, they would hunt you down. She would find a way to kill you. That was her remembering Tamlin. I remembered the pathetic effort to flatter me upon my arrival. And then he'd given up on it, on any attempt to win me, when I'd seemed so desperate to get away, to never talk to him. But he'd fallen in love with me despite all that. Known I'd loved him, and let me go with days to spare. He'd put me before his entire court, before all of Prithian. If Tamlin were freed, if he had his full powers, I said, staring at a blackened bit of wall, wouldn't he be able to destroy Amarantha? I don't know. She tricked the High Lords through cunning, not force. Magic's a specific kind of thing. It likes rules, and she manipulated them too well. She keeps their powers locked up inside herself, as if she can't use them, or can access very little of them at least. She has her own deadly powers, yes. So if it came down to a fight? But is he stronger? I started wringing my hands. He's a high lord, Ellis replied, as if that were answer enough. But none of that matters now. He's to be her slave, and we're all to wear these masks until he agrees to become her lover. Even then, he'll never regain his full powers. But she'll never let those under the mountain go. I pushed off the table and squared my shoulders. How do I get under the mountain? She clicked her tongue. You can't go under the mountain. No human who goes in ever comes out. I squeezed my fist so hard that my nails bit into my flesh. How do I get there? It's suicide. She'll kill you even if you get close enough to see her. Amarantha had tricked him. She had hurt him so badly. Hurt them all so badly. You're a human, Alice went on, standing as well. Your flesh is paper thin. Amarantha must also have taken Lucian. She carved out Lucian's eye and scarred him like that. Did his mother grieve for him? You were too blind to see Tamlin's curse, Alice continued. How do you expect to face Amarantha? You'll make things worse. Amarantha had taken everything I wanted, everything I finally dared to desire. Show me the way, I said, my voice trembling, but not with tears. No, Alice slung her satchel over her shoulder. Go home. I'll take you as far as the wall. There's nothing to be done now. Tamlin will remain her slave forever, and Prithian will stay under her rule. That's what fate dealt. That was what the eddies of the cauldron decided. I don't believe in fate, nor do I believe in some ridiculous cauldron. She shook her head again, her wild brown hair like glistening mud in the dim light. Take me to her, I insisted. If Amarantha ripped out my throat, at least I would die doing something for him. At least I would die trying to fix the destruction I hadn't prevented, trying to save the people I doomed. At least Tamlin would know it was for him, and that I loved him. Alice studied me for a moment before her eyes softened. As you wish. And that's chapter 32. So yeah, it's basically like, once again, it's like a Beauty and the Beast kind of thing. He needed her to love him and say that she loved him and mean it. Which she didn't do, but like she wanted to do. So it's weird that it's like those words are kind of the only words that work. But all right. And it sucks that it was only 3 days. So yeah, I'm not sure that like I love the way that was written, but we'll take it. It's an interesting plot device. I just feel like we could have made it less on the nose and less obvious, you know? So I'm going to pop away for 2 seconds, deal with my itchiness, grab a glass of water, and then we'll be right back with chapter 33. right, I'm back. Hope I wasn't gone too long. Sorry, guys. So I think I've done at least something that'll help my nose a little bit. You can see it's quite red, but I did like put some soothing cream on it. Not to be too into detail, but I was hoping that'll relax it a little. So I just get to look like Rudolph for you. Excuse me. Got some water. Sparkling water, but it's water. And I've switched our vibes to something a little bit different. That last playlist there that I was playing while I was off was Euphoria inspired, and I don't know if anybody liked it, because I don't even watch Euphoria, so I don't know if that's good or bad or what that means. It was just there. All right, so we're moving on to chapter 33 here. We just got like info dumped hard. Like Alice just gave us so much information. Like I think I retained most of it. I think that like, you know, basically Amarantha wants Tamlin for herself. He don't want her. That pissed her off. And so she made a curse. She cursed them with the masks, for one. And for two, the only way to break it is for him to fall in love with a human and to have the human fall in love with him. Just like Beauty and the Beast. Just like every other fairy tale sort of situation there. And the answer to this is Feyre, who did not say it before she left, but which was just 3 days from the deadline, just like Beauty and the Beast. And now she's got to go and rescue him from Amarantha, who has him and who is going to break him. She's going to break the bat. Anybody else excited for Batman? Oh my god, I'm so fucking pumped. We got our tickets. I'm so excited. And like right now, everybody's talking about Robert Pattinson because like obviously he's fantastic and amazing. And I guess last night at work, my partner's coworker showed him our Pats memes. I don't even know what they were because he couldn't remember. He cared so little, but he was like, I was pretending I didn't know who Robert Pattinson was the whole time because I didn't want to admit to him that the only reason I even care about this guy a little bit is because you're so crazy about him. And I was like, well, yeah, of course. Oh, I just moved something. Yeah, I hope Batman is good. I'm just genuinely so excited. And that, I think it was, what was it? What magazine did it? I want to say it was like Entertainment Weekly or something. One of those rags did a shoot with him, and oh damn it, my brain is blanking. Catwoman, she's super hot. We all know who I'm talking about. My brain is just fried. I can like see her face, and it's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, like the damn photos and the video was like, oh, so good. So yeah, like I know he's got a long-term girlfriend, but if like he's not sleeping with her, I don't know. And yeah, I'm all in on Batman. I'm all in for it. Like I love Batman anyway, and I was excited for it before. But now I'm like, ah. Zoe Kravitz, that's right. Thank you. Yes, Queen. Yes, that's it. That's it. Do, do, do. All right, so yeah, let's move on to chapter 33. Let's see what happens. And y'all feel free to chime in anytime you like, you know, in chat. And I didn't mention it at the top. I never do. I always forget. But remember, if you're not following right now, to follow. And that you can always send a donation in at the link that gets posted in chat every so often. I'll post it right now again. Is that it? Or is it? Yeah, there it is. It's not, there's no incentive today, but just sent it twice. There's no incentive today specifically, but you know, I really appreciate it. It makes it way easier to do this if because there are some costs associated with it, and it makes it a little easier to do if I know people are supporting and people are watching and people are enjoying it, which I know based on your donations, as well as you telling me, because I also love it, but I also get it. Times are tough, so it's no pressure. Yep, toss a coin to your narrator. Which reminds me, I saw a post today, not to be off topic again, but like we're just talking about all kinds of things. And I don't know if it's true, but if it is, that's wild. That I guess in Henry Cavill's contract for The Witcher, him and his agent both missed that like Netflix has exclusive rights to his face for a select period of time. And that's part of why, like, in all the cameos that are coming up recently in DC Universe stuff, like Superman is always kind of like he's there, but he's not there. I don't know if it's true, but if that's true, that sucks for him. I'm so sorry. But I mean, but his face is like hot, so I guess that makes sense. He's who was supposed to play Edward in Twilight the first time, you know, before he got too old, so there's still Henry Cavill love there too. He's a very pretty man. Such a pretty man. All right, let's move on to chapter 33. I might have been going to my death, but I wouldn't arrive unarmed. I tightened the strap of the quiver across my chest and then grazed my fingers over the arrow feathers peeking over my shoulder. Of course, there were no ash arrows, but I would make do with what I'd found scattered throughout the manor. I could have taken more, but weapons would only weigh me down, and I didn't know how to use most of them anyway. So I wore a full quiver, 2 daggers at my waist, and a bow slung over my shoulder. Better than nothing, even if I was up against fairies who'd been born knowing how to kill. Alice led me through the silent woods and foothills, pausing every so often to listen, to alter our course. I didn't want to know what she heard or smelled out there, not when such stillness blanketed the lands. Stay with the High Lord, the Suriel had said. Stay with him, fall in love with him, and all would be righted. But if I had stayed, if I had admitted what I'd felt, none of this would have happened. The world steadily filled with night, and my legs ached for the steep slopes of the hills. But Alice pressed on, never once looking back to see that I followed. I was beginning to wonder whether I should have brought more than a day's worth of food when she stopped in the hollow. When she stopped in the hollow between 2 hills. The air was cold, far colder than the air at the top of the hill, and I shivered as my eyes fell upon a slender cave mouth. There was no way this was the entrance. Not when that mural had painted under the mountain to be in the center of Prithian. It was weeks of travel away. All dark and miserable roads lead under the mountain, Alice said so quietly that her voice was nothing more than the rustling of leaves. She pointed to the cave. It's an ancient shortcut, once considered sacred, but no more. This was the cave Lucian had ordered the Ator not to use that day. I tried to master my trembling. I loved Tamlin, and I would go to the ends of the earth to make it right, to save him. But if Amarantha was worse than the Ator, if the Ator wasn't the wickedest of her cronies, if even Tamlin had been scared of her, I reckon you're regretting your hot-headedness right now. I started. I straightened. I will free him. You'll be lucky if she gives you a clean death. You'll be lucky if you even get brought before her. I must have turned pale because she pursed her lips and patted me on the shoulder. A few rules to remember, girl, she said, and we both stared at the cave mouth. The darkness reeked from its maw to poison the fresh night air. Don't drink the wine. It's not like what we had at the solstice, and will do more harm than good. Don't make deals with anyone unless your life depends on it, and even then consider whether it's worth it. And most of all, don't trust a soul in there. Not even your Tamlin. Your senses are your greatest enemies. They will be waiting to betray you. I fought the urge to touch one of my daggers and nodded my thanks instead. Do you have a plan? No, I admitted. Don't expect that steel to do you any good, she said with a glance at my weapons. I don't. I faced her, biting the inside of my lip. There was one part of the curse, one part we can't tell you. Even now my bones are crying out just for mentioning it. One part you have to figure out, on your own. One part she swallowed loudly, that she still doesn't want you to know if I can't say it. She gasped out, but keep your ears open, girl. Listen to what you can hear. I touched her arm. I will. Thank you for bringing me. For wasting precious hours when that satchel of supplies, for herself, for her boys, said enough about where she was going. It's a rare day indeed when someone thanks you for bringing them to their death. If I thought about the danger too long, I might lose my nerve. Tamlin or no. She wasn't helping. I wish you luck nonetheless, Alice added. Once you retrieve them, if you and your nephews need somewhere to flee, I said, cross the wall. Go to my family's house. I told her the location. Ask for Nesta, my eldest sister. She knows who you are, knows everything. She will shelter you in any way she can. Nesta would do it too. I knew now, even if Alice and her boys terrified her. She would keep them safe. Alice patted my hand. Stay alive, she said. I looked at her one last time, then at the night sky that was unfurling above us, and at the deep green of the hills, the color of Tamlin's eyes. I walked into the cave. The only sounds were my shallow breathing and the crunch of my boots on stone. Stumbling through the frigid dark, I inched onward. I kept close to the wall, and my hand soon turned numb as the cold, wet stone bit into my skin. I took small steps, fearful of some invisible pit that might send me tumbling to my doom. After what felt like an eternity, a crack of orange light cleaved through the dark. And then came the voices, hissing and braying, eloquent and guttural, a cacophony bursting the silence like a firecracker. I pressed myself against the cave wall, but the sounds passed and faded. I crept toward the light, blinking back my blindness when I found the source, a slight fissure in the rock. It opened onto a crudely carved, fire-lit subterranean passageway. I lingered in the shadows, my heart wild in my chest. The crack in the cave wall was large enough for one person to squeeze through, so jagged and rough that it was obviously not often used. A glance at the dirt revealed no tracks, no sign of anyone else using this entrance. The hallway beyond was clear, but it veered off, obscuring my view. The passage was deathly quiet, but I remembered Alice's warning and didn't trust my ears. Not when fairies could be silent as cats. Still, I had to leave this cave. Tamlin had been here for weeks already. I had to find where Amarantha kept him, and hopefully not run into anyone in the process. Killing animals and the Naga had been one thing, but killing any others? I took several deep breaths, bracing myself. It was the same as hunting, only this time the animals were fairies. Fairies who could torture me endlessly, torture me until I begged for death. Torture me the way they tormented that summer court fairy whose wings had been ripped off. Oh, thank you, Uncanny Rachel. I appreciate it so much. I didn't let myself think about those bleeding stumps as I eased toward the tiny opening, sucking in my stomach to squeeze through. My weapon scraped against the stone, and I winced at the hiss of falling pebbles. Keep moving, keep moving. Oh. Hurrying across the open hallway, I pressed into an alcove in the opposite wall. It didn't provide much cover. I slunk along the wall, pausing at the bend in the hall. Wall and hall. This was a mistake. Only an idiot would come here. I could be anywhere in Amarantha's court. Alice should have given me more information. I should have been smart enough to ask. Or smart enough to think of another way. Any way but this. I risked a glance around the corner and almost sobbed in frustration. Another hallway carved out of the mountain's pale stone, lined on either side by torches. No shadowy spots for concealment. And at its other end, my view was yet again obscured by a sharp turn. It was wide open. I was as good as a starving doe, ripping bark off a tree in a clearing. Gosh. But the halls were silent. The voices I had heard earlier were gone, and if I heard anyone, I could sprint back to that cave mouth. I could do reconnaissance for a time, gather information, find out where Talon was. No. A second opportunity might not arise for a while. I had to act now. If I stopped for too long, I'd never work up the nerve again. I made to slip around the corner. Long, bony fingers wrapped around my arm, and I went rigid. A pointed, leathery gray face came into view, and its silver fangs glistened as it smiled at me. "Hello," it hissed. "What's something like you doing here?" I knew that voice. It still haunted my nightmares. So it was all I could do to keep from screaming as its bat-like ears cocked, and I realized that I stood before the Ator. And that's chapter 33. Whew. Okay, so we've got this Ator guy again, who I can't remember how I did his voice before, and I don't think it was very good anyway. She's slinking around in the caves. Is he gonna eat her? Probably not. I don't know, man. Scary. So yeah, chapter 34 is not too long, so I will pop in. I don't know if you can hear that wind. It is so windy here today. Just made my windows rattle. Chapter 34. The Ator kept its icy grip on my upper arm as it half dragged me to the throne room. It didn't bother to strip me of my weapons. We both knew they were of little use. Tamlin, Alice and her boys, my sisters, Lucian. I silently chanted their names again and again as the Ator loomed above me, a demon of malice. Its leathery wings rustled occasionally, and had I been able to speak without screaming, I might have asked why it hadn't killed me outright. The Ator just tugged me onward with that slithering gait, its clawed feet making leisurely scratches on the cave floor. It looked unnervingly identical to how I had painted it. Leering faces, cruel and harsh, watched me go by, none of them looking remotely concerned or disturbed that I was in the claws of the Ator. Fairies, lots of them, but few high fae to be seen. We strode through two ancient, enormous stone doors, taller than Tamlin's manor, and into a vast chamber carved from pale rock, upheld by countless carved pillars. That small part of me that had again become trivial and useless noted that the carvings weren't just ornate designs, but actually depicted fairies and high fae and animals in various environments and states of movement. Countless stories of Prythian were etched on them. Chandeliers of jewels hung between the pillars, staining the red marble floor with color. Here were the high fae. Oh, this throne room sounds gorgeous. Yeah, it is escalated from being itchy to now dripping slightly. It's disgusting. Ah! An assembled crowd took up most of the space, some of them dancing to strange, off-kilter music, some milling about, chatting. A party of sorts. I thought I spied some glittering masks among the attendees, but everything was a blur of sharp teeth and fine clothing. The Ator hurled me forward, and the world spun. The cold marble floor was unyielding as I slammed into it, my bones groaning and barking. I pushed myself up, sparks dancing in my eyes, but stayed on the ground. Kept low as I beheld the dais before me. A few steps led onto the platform. I lifted my head higher. There, lounging on a black throne, was Amarantha. Though lovely, she wasn't as devastatingly beautiful as I had imagined. Wasn't some goddess of darkness and spite. It made her all the more petrifying. Her red gold hair was neatly braided and woven through her golden crown, the deep color enriching her snow-white skin, which, in turn, set off her ruby lips. But while her ebony eyes shone, there was something that sucked at her beauty, some kind of permanent sneer to her features that made her allure seem contrived and cold. To paint her would have driven me to madness. The highest commander of the King of Hybern. She'd slaughtered human armies centuries ago, had murdered her slaves rather than free them, and she'd captured all of Prythian in a matter of days. Then I looked to the black rock throne beside her, and my arms buckled beneath me. He was still wearing that golden mask, still wearing his warrior's clothes, that baldric, even though there were no knives sheathed along it, not a single weapon anywhere on him. His eyes didn't widen, his mouth didn't tighten. No claws, no fangs. He just stared at me, unfeeling, unmoved, unimpressed. "What's this?" Amarantha said, her voice lilting despite the adder's smile she gave me. From her slender, creamy neck hung a long, thin chain, and from it dangled a single, age-worn bone the size of a finger. I didn't want to consider whom it might have belonged to, as it remained on the floor. If I shifted my arm, I could draw my dagger. "Just a human thing I found downstairs," the Ator hissed. It hissed, and a forked tongue darted out between its razor-sharp teeth. It flapped its wings once, blasting foul-smelling air at me, and then neatly tucked them behind its skeletal body. "Obviously," Amarantha purred. I avoided meeting her eyes, focusing on Tanlin's brown boots. He was 10 feet from me. 10 feet, and not saying a word, not even looking horrified or angry. But why should I bother with her? The Ator chuckled, the sound like sizzling water on a griddle, and a taloned foot jabbed my side. "Tell Her Majesty why you were sneaking around the catacombs, why you came out of the old cave that leads to the Spring Court." Would it be better to kill the Ator, or to try to make it to Amarantha? The adder kicked me again, and I winced as its claws bit into my ribs. "Tell Her Majesty, you human filth!" I needed time. I needed to figure out my surroundings. If Tamlin was under some kind of spell, then I would have to worry about grabbing him. I eased to my feet, keeping my hands within casual reach of my daggers. I stared at Amarantha's glittering golden gown rather than meet her eyes. "I came to claim the one I love," I said quietly. Perhaps the curse could still be broken. Again, I looked at him, and the sight of those emerald eyes was a balm. "Oh," Amarantha said, leaning forward. "I've come to claim Tamlin, High Lord of the Spring Court." A gasp rippled through the assembled court, but Amarantha tipped back her head and laughed. A raven's caw. The High Queen turned to Tamlin, and her lips pulled back in a wicked smile. "You certainly were busy all those years. Developed a taste for human beasts, did you?" He said nothing, his face impassive. What had she done? He didn't move. Her curse had worked then. It was too late. I'd failed him. Damned him. "But," Amarantha said slowly, I could sense the Ator and the entire court looming behind me. "It makes me wonder, if only one human girl can be taken once she's killed your sentinel." Her eyes sparked. "Oh, you are delicious. You let me torture that innocent girl to keep this one safe? You lovely thing, you actually made a human worm love you. Marvelous." She clapped her hands, and Tamlin merely looked away from her, the only reaction I'd seen from him. Tortured. She tortured. "Let him go," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Amarantha laughed again. "Give me one reason why I shouldn't destroy you where you stand, human." Her teeth were so straight and white, almost glowing. My blood pounded in my veins, but I kept my chin high as I said, "You tricked him. He's bound unfairly." Tamlin had gone very, very still. Amarantha clicked her tongue and looked at one of her slender white hands, at the ring on her index finger. A ring I noticed as she lowered her hand again, set with what looked like a human eye encased in crystal. I could have sworn it swiveled inside. "You human beasts are so uncreative. We spent years teaching you poetry and fine speech, and that is all you can come up with? I should rip out your tongue for letting it go to waste." I clamped my teeth together. "But I'm curious, what eloquence will pour from your lips when you behold what you should have... What eloquence will pour from your lips when you behold what you should have been?" My brows narrowed as Amarantha pointed behind me. That hideous eye ring indeed, looking with her as I turned. Oh boy, guys, this is maybe gonna be a little graphic, so fair warning. Ouchie. There, nailed high on the wall of the enormous cavern, was the mangled corpse of a young woman. Her skin was burned in places, her fingers were bent at odd angles, and garish red lines crisscrossed her naked body. I could hardly hear Amarantha over the roar in my ears. Perhaps I should have listened when she said she'd never seen Tamlin before, Amarantha mused. Or when she insisted she'd never killed a fairy, never hunted a day in her life. Though her screaming was delightful, I haven't heard such lovely music in ages. Her next words were directed at me. I should thank you for giving Rysand her name instead of yours. Claire Bador. That was where they'd taken her, what they'd done to her after they burned her family alive in their house. This was what I'd done to her, by giving Rysand her name to protect my family. Thank you, Katricia. Yeah, rest of the book. Graphic. Amarantha ain't nothing to fuck with? Damn. My insides twisted. It was... Sorry, they chopped the word funny, so I didn't know what it was for a second. My insides twisted. It was a concentrated effort not to empty my stomach onto the stones. The Ator's talons dug into my shoulder as it shoved me around to face Amarantha. It was still giving me that snake smile. I had as good as killed Claire. I'd saved my own life and damned her. That rotting body on the wall should be mine. Mine. Come now, precious, Amarantha said. What have you to say to that? I wanted to spit that she deserved to burn in hell for eternity, but I could only see Claire's body nailed there. Even as I stared blankly at Tamlin. He'd let them kill Claire like that, to keep them from knowing that I was alive. My eyes stung as bile burned my throat. Do you still wish to claim someone who would do that to an innocent? Amarantha said softly, consolingly. I snapped my gaze at her. I wouldn't let Claire's death be in vain. I wasn't going down without a fight. Yes, I said. Yes, I do. Her lip curled back, revealing 2 sharp canines. As I stared into her black eyes, I realized I was going to die. But Amarantha leaned back in her throne and crossed her legs. Well, Tamlin, she said, putting a proprietary hand on his arm. I don't suppose you ever expected this to occur. She waved a hand in my general direction. A murmur of laughter from those assembled echoed around me, hitting me like stones. What do you have to say, High Lord? I looked at the face I loved so dearly, and his next words almost sent me to my knees. I've never seen her before. Someone must have glamored her as a joke. Probably Rasand. Still trying to protect me, even now, even here. Oh, that's not even a halfway decent lie, Amarantha angled her head. Could it be that you, despite your words so many years ago, return the human's feelings? A girl with hate in her heart for our kind has managed to fall in love with a fairy. And a fairy whose father once slaughtered the human masses by my side has actually fallen in love with her, too. She let out that crow's laugh again. Oh, this is too good. This is too fun. She fingered the bone hanging from her necklace and looked at the encased eye upon her hand. I suppose if anyone can appreciate the moment, she said to the ring, it would be you, Jurian. She smiled prettily. A pity your human whore on the side never bothered to save you, though. Jurian. That was his eye. His finger bone. Horror coiled in my gut. Through whatever evil, whatever power, she somehow held his soul, his consciousness, to the ring, the bone. Tamlin still looked at me without recognition, without a flicker of feeling. Perhaps she had used the same power to glamour him. Perhaps she'd taken all his memories. The queen picked at her nails. Things have been awfully boring since Claire decided to die on me. Killing you outright, human, would be dull. She flicked her gaze to me, then back to her nails, to the ring on her finger. But fate stirs the cauldron in strange ways. Perhaps my darling Claire had to die in order for me to have some true amusement with you. She's saying it again, boys. My bowels turned watery. I couldn't help it. Did she shit herself? Come on. Really? Oops. She said the thing. The bad thing. You came to claim Tamlin, Amarantha said. It wasn't a question, but a challenge. Well, as it happens, I'm bored to tears of his sullen silence. I was worried when he didn't flinch while I played with darling Claire, when he didn't even show those lovely claws. But I'll make a bargain with you, human, she said, and warning bells pealed in my mind. Unless your life depends on it, Alice had said. You complete 3 tasks of my choosing. 3 tasks to prove how deep that human sense of loyalty and love runs, and Tamlin is yours. Just 3 little challenges to prove your dedication, to prove to me, to darling Jurian, that your kind can indeed love true, and you can have your High Lord. She turned to Tamlin. Consider it a favor, High Lord. These human dogs can make our kind so lust-blind that we lose all common sense. Better for you to see her true nature now. I want his curse broken, too, I blurted. She raised a brow, her smile growing, revealing far too many of those white teeth. I complete all 3 of your tasks, and his curse is broken. And we, and all his court, can leave here, and remain free forever, I added. Magic was specific. Alice had said that. That was how Amarantha had tricked them. I wouldn't let loopholes be my downfall. Of course, Amarantha purred. I'll throw in another element, if you don't mind. Just to see you're worthy of one of our kind, if you're smart enough to deserve him. Jurian's eyes swiveled wildly, and she clicked her tongue at it. The eye stopped moving. I'll give you a way out, girl, she went on. You'll complete all the tasks. Or, when you can't stand it anymore, all you have to do is answer one question. I could barely hear her above the blood pounding in my ears. A riddle. You solve the riddle, and his curse will be broken. Instantaneously. I won't even need to lift my finger and he'll be free. Say the right answer, and he's yours. You can answer it at any time. But if you answer incorrectly, she pointed, and I didn't need to turn to know she gestured to Claire. I turned her words over, looking for traps and loopholes within her phrasing, but it all sounded right. And what if I fail your tasks? Her smile became almost grotesque, and she rubbed a thumb across the dome of her ring. If you fail a task, there won't be anything left of you for me to play with. A chill slithered down my spine. Alice had warned me against bargains, but Amarantha would kill me in an instant if I said no. What is the nature of my tasks? Oh, revealing that would take all the fun out of it. But I'll tell you that you'll have one task every month, at the full moon. And in the meantime, I dared a glance at Tamlin. The gold in his eyes was brighter than I remembered. In the meantime, Amarantha said a bit sharply, you shall either remain in your cell or do whatever additional work I require. If you run me ragged, won't that put me at a disadvantage? I knew she was losing interest, that she hadn't expected me to question her so much, but I had to try to gain some kind of knowledge. Nothing beyond basic housework. It's only fair for you to earn your keep. I could have strangled her for that, but I nodded. Then we are agreed. I knew she waited for me to echo her response, but I had to make sure. If I complete your 3 tasks or solve your riddle, you'll do as I request. Of course, Amarantha said. Is it agreed? His face, ghastly white, Tamlin's eyes met with mine, and they almost imperceptibly widened. No. But it was either this or death. Death like Claire's, slow and brutal. The outdoor hissed behind me, a warning to reply. I didn't believe in fate or the cauldron, and I had no other choice. Because when I looked into Tamlin's eyes, even now, seated beside Amarantha as her slave or worse, I loved him with a fierceness that swept out my whole heart. Because when he had widened his eyes, I'd known he still loved me. I had nothing left but that, with the shred of fool's hope that I might win, that I might outwit and defeat a fairy queen as ancient as the stone beneath me. Well, Amarantha demanded. Behind me, I sensed the Ator preparing to pounce, to beat the answer from me, if need be. She tricked them all, but I hadn't survived poverty and years in the woods for nothing. My best chance lay in revealing nothing about myself or what I knew. What was her court but another forest, another hunting ground? I glanced at Tamlin one last time before I said, agreed. Amarantha gave me a small, horrible smile, and magic sizzled in the air between us as she snapped her fingers. She nestled back in her throne. Give her a greeting worthy of my hall, she said to someone behind me. The Ator's hiss was my only warning as something rock-hard collided with my jaw. It was thrown sideways, stunned from the pain, but another brutal blow to my face awaited. Bones crunched. My bones. My legs twisted beneath me, and the Ator's leathery skin grated against my cheek as it punched me again. I ricocheted away, but met with the fist of another, a twisted, lesser fairy whose face I didn't glimpse. It was like being slugged with a brick. Crunch, crack. I think there were 3 of them, and I became their punching bag. Passed off from blow to blow, my bones screaming in agony. Maybe I was screaming in agony too. Blood sprayed from my mouth, and its metallic tang coated my tongue before I knew no more. And that's chapter 34. Oh, thanks, Katrisha. Oh, I can see why the person doing the audiobooks would choose like an Azula voice. That does make sense, but I just went with that. That's just what popped out. So actually, I love reading and playing villain characters like that. That's why, like, when I did in college, we did King Lear. I played one of the bad sisters. In fact, I played the one that takes the eye out of the guy, claw it out. So I got to claw somebody's eye out. Yeah, that's the greeting. Nobody shows up, right? They just beat her in. So this next chapter is quite long. So I think we're going to end it here for today. Yeah, we're going to end it here for today. But we will be going ahead with chapter 35 on Wednesday. Yeah, life is tough under the mountain. Hard down there. And I don't know if I don't know if there's going to be a Lisa and Jackie stream tonight, because I know Lisa was traveling to LA, but Jackie still has COVID, so who knows? But if there is, I will see y'all in chat, and if not, then I'll see you later, the next time I stream. Once again, just a reminder, we've added our Saturday nights. I know most of you were there last night, and thank you so much for coming out. But yeah, we've added Saturday nights. Those are our low-key slumber party vibes, so we can do kind of whatever we want. So definitely send me ideas, send me links for things that like you want to do, whatever. You can reach me. You can always get me at dottiechampagne@gmail.com. Like, that's if you want to email, if you're an emailer. But you can always like send me a message on Instagram. You can shoot me a message direct in Discord, tag me in something, whatever you want. And just let me know, like, hey, I want to do this on a Saturday night. I want to watch this with you. I want to, whatever. Because I just want to make sure you guys are all down and having a good time. As we reach the end of the book here, I do want to confirm that I am planning on reading the next one in the series. But same deal, right? Like, if everybody's like, I'm done with that, then let me know. We'll read something else. But I am liking the series, and I feel like we should keep on keeping on. So yeah, this video will be posted to our YouTube shortly for those that need to catch up. Oh, okay, Trisha has a question. So she says, what are your thoughts on everything Feyre learned? I would have felt kind of betrayed, but she didn't think about it at all. Yeah, see, like, I don't think I would feel betrayed because like it was quite clear that it was like nobody could say anything about it, right? So it's like not their fault. Yeah, because like that's the thing. I'm very, very forgiving when it comes to things like that. When it's like clearly not something somebody had any control over, I'll let it go. But yeah, and I mean, especially because it's just such a tropey curse. Like it's just so expected of the genre that I'm just not surprised by it really. And I knew there was something going on. Like the fact that maybe Feyre didn't pick up on that is kind of dumb. But like I picked up on it right away. I was just like, something. He's not telling her something. Like I was like, he clearly is trying to spend time with her and get her to like him in some way. So like either he's already in love with her or like he knows he's supposed to be or something like that. Like I knew he was hiding something. So I'm not surprised it's that. Yeah, so now I guess we're gonna find out what these tasks are. Yeah, she's very ignorant. She couldn't even read. Which, I mean, fair enough. Illiteracy is a problem when you're poor, I suppose. But yeah, she just didn't know stuff. Yeah, so we're gonna find out what these tasks are. We're gonna find out the riddle. I think my goal would be to solve the riddle, like, right away. But I don't know if it's gonna be a fair riddle. But I can't wait to find out what the riddle is and see if we can solve it before she does. Because I love that. But anyway, like, so we've got 3 months of tasks otherwise, and they're not going to be good tasks, I suppose. So, yeah, I will let y'all go for the night. Like I said, shoot me a message at dottiechampagne@gmail.com or anywhere else you like with, like, stuff to push forward. Oh, Bilbo, what's in my pocket bullshit, right? Bye, y'all. See you later. I think I'm going to set us up to go raid the seal. I keep meaning to do it, so see y'all later.